Imagine achieving greatness in a world that was built to hold you back against all odds. From a child prodigy torn between two worlds to an emperor whose wealth could break economies, these figures didn't just live, they reshaped history. And you won't believe the barriers they had to break. Today we're looking at 10 remarkable figures who, despite living in worlds stacked against them, left a legacy that can't be ignored. From a pianist child genius to an African emperor whose wealth changed the world economy, these people shattered every expectation and rewrote history. So, let's dive into their incredible lives. History tends to forget those who don't fit the traditional mold, but these 10 individuals didn't just go against the grain, they tore the grain apart. Whether they faced racism, sexism, or simply a society unwilling to embrace their brilliance, each of these figures stood tall, often in ways that were revolutionary for their time. But how does someone rise above a world determined to hold them down? 1. Philippa Schuyler, a prodigy battling a segregated society. Born in 1931, Philippa Schuyler's talent was undeniable. By age 4, she was composing music. By age 8, she was touring as a concert pianist, performing for audiences that marveled at her skills. But there was a problem: she was a mixed-race child prodigy in a deeply segregated America. While her white mother had ambitions of presenting her as a racial experiment to prove that interracial children could achieve greatness, Philippa lived in a world that was not ready to embrace her fully. Despite being hailed as a child genius, the society around her couldn't look past her skin color. As she grew older, Schuyler's struggles only intensified. Not only was she trying to fit into an elite musical world, but she was also constantly navigating racial prejudice. Although she traveled the world and performed for dignitaries, she became disillusioned by the limitations placed on her career due to her race. It's a tragic irony. Despite her incredible talent, Philippa's life was defined as much by her music as it was by the deep societal constraints she faced. 2. Jean-Michel Basquiat. Art as rebellion. The art world in the 1980s was vibrant, chaotic, and exclusive. Enter Jean-Michel Basquiat, a young Haitian American who stormed the scene with his raw, emotive art. His work was unapologetically political, tackling issues like racism, inequality, and identity in ways that were as striking as they were controversial. But Basquiat's rise to fame wasn't easy. The contemporary art world was overwhelmingly white, and few black artists had ever managed to break into that elite space. Basquiat did more than just break in, he changed the landscape of art forever. His paintings were often a direct confrontation to the traditional Eurocentric standards of beauty and culture. With bold colors, jagged lines, and text scratched into the canvas, his work was a fusion of graffiti and fine art, creating something entirely new. His meteoric rise and eventual tragic death at age 27 cemented his legacy as not just a brilliant artist, but also a symbol of defiance in the face of societal expectations. Today, Basquiat is considered one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, and his works command tens of millions of dollars. 3. Sarah Forbes Bonetta. From captive to British royalty. Sarah Forbes Bonetta's story is one that almost seems too incredible to be true. Born in what is now modern-day Nigeria, Sarah was captured as a child by the notorious Dahomey Kingdom. Her life took an unexpected turn when she was offered as a gift to Queen Victoria of England. Under the Queen's patronage, Sarah was raised in England, becoming a member of the aristocracy. For a black woman in Victorian England, Sarah's life was unique, to say the least. She was highly educated, fluent in multiple languages, and had the Queen's favor, something almost unimaginable for someone of African descent during that period. Sarah's intelligence and wit made her a beloved figure in high society, but her presence also challenged the racial norms of the time. While most of Victorian England viewed Africans as inferior, Sarah's elevated status showed that greatness knew no racial bounds. Her marriage to a wealthy African merchant only further solidified her rare and extraordinary position in society. But even with her privileged life, Sarah still had to navigate the complexities of being black in a world that saw her as an anomaly. 4. Wangari Maathai. The woman who planted trees and changed a nation. Wangari Maathai's work wasn't just about planting trees, it was about restoring dignity and rights to the people of Kenya. In a country devastated by deforestation and environmental degradation, Maathai founded the Green Belt movement, which not only tackled environmental issues but also empowered women in rural areas. The movement encouraged women to plant trees, giving them a way to reclaim their land, improve their livelihoods, and fight back against the oppressive regime of the time. Maathai's work wasn't without its challenges. As an outspoken activist, she faced intense government opposition and even physical threats to her life. But her vision for a greener, more just Kenya never wavered. In 2004, she became the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, cementing her status as a global environmental and human rights icon. Her legacy lives on, not just in the millions of trees she helped plant, but in the millions of lives she empowered. 5. Lina Medina, the unsolved medical mystery. In 1939, 5-year-old Lina Medina gave birth to a healthy baby boy, making her the youngest confirmed mother in recorded history. Born into a poor indigenous family in Peru, Lina's pregnancy baffled doctors and scientists. How could a child so young even become pregnant? Lina's case remains one of the most extraordinary medical mysteries to this day. Her story wasn't just about the rarity of her situation, it also highlighted the deep cultural and scientific limitations of the time. Lina never revealed who the father of her child was, and the circumstances surrounding her pregnancy remained shrouded in mystery. But despite the intense global attention, Lina lived a relatively quiet life afterward, refusing to let her fame define her. Today, Lina's story continues to perplex the medical community, and her case remains an unsolved puzzle. 6. Harriet Jacobs, the woman who exposed the truth about slavery. When Harriet Jacobs penned her autobiography Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, she did something no one had done before. She gave voice to the sexual exploitation of black women in slavery. Her book wasn't just a memoir, it was a groundbreaking expose of the brutal realities faced by enslaved women in America. At a time when women's voices were often ignored, Harriet's courageous decision to tell her story was revolutionary. Her account laid bare the physical and psychological horrors of slavery, offering the world a deeply personal glimpse into a system of oppression that had long been sanitized in public discourse. Despite the dangers of publishing such a story, Harriet's words became a powerful tool in the abolitionist movement, and her legacy as both a survivor and a fighter endures. 7. Alfredo Bowman, Dr. Sebi, the healer who defied modern medicine. Alfredo Bowman, better known as Dr. Sebi, wasn't a conventional healer. His methods, which involved natural remedies and a plant-based alkaline diet, flew in the face of mainstream medicine. But for many, his work was life-changing. Dr. Sebi claimed that his diet could cure everything from diabetes to AIDS, a claim that sparked both controversy and devotion among his followers. Born in Honduras, Dr. Sebi's holistic approach to health was rooted in ancient African traditions. His work attracted the attention of celebrities like Michael Jackson and Lisa Left Eye Lopes, who believed in his ability to heal through natural remedies. While his methods have been dismissed by many in the medical community, Dr. Sebi's influence on holistic health, particularly among black communities, remains significant. 8. Edward Bouchet, breaking barriers in higher education. In 1876, Edward Bouchet achieved something no black man had done before. He earned a Ph.D. from Yale University in physics, making him the first African-American to receive a doctorate in any field. But his accomplishment wasn't just a personal victory, it was a groundbreaking moment for black Americans in the world of higher education. At a time when very few black people even had access to formal education, Bouchet's achievements shattered preconceived notions of intellectual ability based on race. Despite this incredible success, Bouchet faced immense challenges in finding work. His degree did not automatically open doors, as discrimination was still rampant in the academic world. He ended up teaching at historically black colleges, where he continued to educate and inspire future generations of scholars. Bouchet's story reflects a harsh reality. Despite his groundbreaking achievement, societal barriers still limited his opportunities. However, his legacy paved the way for future generations of black scientists and academics, showing that brilliance and perseverance could overcome even the most oppressive structures. 9. Mansa Musa, the emperor whose wealth shook the world. Imagine being so wealthy that your spending destabilizes entire economies. That's exactly what happened when Mansa Musa, the emperor of the Mali Empire in the 14th century, went on his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. His caravan included tens of thousands of people, and he distributed gold so lavishly along the way that it caused inflation in the regions he passed through, including Egypt. Mansa Musa's wealth was beyond comprehension, even by today's standards. His empire was rich in natural resources, particularly gold, and his pilgrimage to Mecca wasn't just a religious journey, it was a political statement, introducing the world to the power and wealth of the Mali Empire. But his influence extended beyond wealth. Mansa Musa was a patron of education and culture, building schools, libraries, and mosques across his empire. Under his rule, Timbuktu became a major center of learning, drawing scholars from all over the Islamic world. Mansa Musa's legacy is not just about his incredible wealth, it's about his ability to use that wealth to promote learning and culture, turning his empire into one of the most powerful and advanced civilizations of its time. 10. Phyllis Wheatley, a poet against all odds. Phyllis Wheatley's story is one of triumph over unimaginable adversity. Born in West Africa and sold into slavery as a child, she was brought to America where her owners recognized her exceptional intelligence and encouraged her education, something extremely rare for an enslaved person in the 18th century. By the age of 12, Wheatley could read and write English, Greek, and Latin, and by the age of 20, she published her first book of poetry, becoming the first Black woman in America to do so. Her work wasn't just an expression of her talent, it was a profound statement about the intellectual capabilities of Black people in a time when they were largely seen as inferior. Wheatley's poetry, which often reflected on themes of religion, liberty, and oppression, captivated readers in both America and Europe. Her success, however, didn't shield her from the harsh realities of slavery and racism. She had to defend her work and her authorship to people who couldn't believe that a Black woman, let alone a slave, could produce such sophisticated poetry. Wheatley's contributions to literature were groundbreaking, not only for their content but for what they represented. She defied the racist expectations of her time and showed the world that genius knows no color. These 10 remarkable individuals didn't just achieve personal success, they defied the expectations and constraints of their times, shattering barriers in the process. From Philippa Schuyler, who used music to transcend racial boundaries, to Mansa Musa, whose wealth was unmatched in history, to Phyllis Wheatley, who changed the world of literature. These people rewrote history in ways few could imagine. Their stories remind us that greatness isn't bound by circumstances, race, or background. It's about the courage to push beyond the limits imposed by society. If these stories inspired you, make sure to subscribe and check out the next video for more incredible stories that shaped our world.